But before I show you the migraine-inducing editing capabilities of amateur internet conspiracy theorists, which, as I'm sure you can imagine, I am going to be reviewing in this video.
Welcome back to another episode of
Pseudo-archaeologists
Are Not Physicists. Right now you're going to hear Milo go into a whole little bit of a rant about how there's no possible way that anything in this Dendera light bulb has anything to do with real science, and it's just a representation of the creation myth. While it might still be a representation of the creation myth, things can be more than one thing at once.
This relief appears 4 times in the Temple of Hathor. And by this relief, I mean the light portion. And something which is going to be very important to note moving forward, this relief, which a pseudo-archaeologist bastardized from Crypt 1C on the north wall because of this portion right here, believed to be some sort of insulator, which has something to do with the bulb. Keep in mind, meaning that this entire theory revolves around just a pseudo-archaeologist bastardized carving. And you may be wondering, so there's no physical evidence to suggest that it was a light bulb. What does this theory actually base itself on? The entire theory is, as I'm sure you could already guess, based around the idea that this looks like a light bulb. This relief depicts a glass light bulb and a filament on the inside of it, and further claimed that the lotus flower is a socket that the bulb is plugged into, and that the stem of the lotus flower is an electrical wire running to some sort of power supply. And then, of course, that the Dejed pillar that's here is a fucking insulator or something stupid. Now, these people have no idea what they're talking about.
Do you think there's never any extra symbolism put into things? Ever, Milo? Like, no, they've never put any double meanings in any kind of art before. Ever.
Looks like a light bulb.
Let's talk about what an electron vacuum tube is here. What you're seeing is an electron stream, a focusing ring, and a deflecting magnet. Why would you have a deflecting magnet? Well, this is how old tube TVs work. They fire electrons at the screen, they use magnets and a magnetic field to deflect it, that causes it to turn, and then it shoots at the screen, creates light. And what that light continues onto our faces, and that's what we see. Not only are these some of the first particle accelerators, not light bulbs.
And then, of course, that the Dejed pillar that's here is a fucking insulator or something stupid. Now, these people have no idea what they're talking about.
The more you guys continue to just insist it's a light bulb, the more you're proving you don't understand physics enough to understand what you're even looking at here. First off, electrons, as we've established in modern physics, are not just particles. They have a wave-particle duality. This wave-particle duality is quite literally the fundamental basis for how electrons build up in orbitals, is that each orbital is a resonant energy level, and the matter waves go into standing waves because they are whole number or harmonics of the wave of each electron. The wavelength of that electron is defined by the kinetic energy. This is known as the de Broglie wavelength. Each energy level of the orbital is defined as having a different energy, kinetic energy, and each of those kinetic energies is associated with a wavelength of that particle. Each of these orbitals in it is considered a harmonic of the energy of the quantized energy levels. Quantum does not mean tiny, does not mean small, it does not mean particle. It means discrete 1, 2, 3, 4, not 1.2, 1.3. No, there's the first energy level, then the second energy level, then the third energy level, and they are discrete from each other. They are quantized. Now, what would a better way to represent a wave if you use animalism or animism in all your artwork? What a better way to make a picture or depiction of a wave that's a particle, but it's alive, but it's still a wave. A snake, it's literally slithering, or even a fish, or anything that wiggles is honestly a really great way to use animism to depict a waving or a oscillating or a wave-like particle duality, which, what a surprise. All these things talk about having a dual existence or the duality of divine nature. Like, wave-particle duality, the divine particles. Again, this is a perfect example of how we shouldn't be resorting to archaeologists for establishing what ancient humans may or may not have known. If we are just going to assume they had less technology than us, of course we're not going to figure these things out. If you don't understand the sciences that we have today, you might not understand how we might be so far off from their abilities, we are not even recognizing that they had science. I really don't. I can't. It's getting to be like, he's got these videos littered all over where he claims to be debunking pseudoscience while just bastardizing physics and just spreading pseudo-physics. Like, come on, Milo. How many debunking videos are you going to put out before you actually address some of this stuff? You can continue to dodge all these, but I don't know what else to tell you, man. You do not have enough physics background to understand what you're looking at, and you are now bastardizing the possibility of our ancestors, or some of our ancestors, having actual sciences because you just don't want to believe it. And you don't understand it, so you just assume it's not possible. Let me tell you, dude, there's a reason they put two of these bulbs pointing at each other. We literally call them a particle accelerator or an atom smasher. What would it mean if two of these bulbs are linear accelerators and they're pointing the two beams at each other? It's a particle accelerator. You're smashing atoms, you're smashing electrons, you're smashing particles. What Milo seems to think is this is just
A fucking insulator or something stupid.
insulator. Why in the world would you need an insulator if you've got a glass bulb to begin with? You don't. What does this actually look like? It looks like a freaking electromagnet with coils going around it. What are the two arms sticking up? Those look exactly like the two plates on either side of what we usually use as a deflector plate inside of a vacuum tube and an electron accelerator. You can even see it in these linear accelerators that they have they repeated events, repeated cycles of these that get longer and longer as the electron speeds up. This is showing one of them. Now, no, why would you have it all in a bulb? Because you need a vacuum. Like, it's a vacuum tube. We literally call them vacuum tubes. And we call it the glass envelope. It's this insulator. Like, these look exactly the same. These are not light bulbs. They're vacuum tubes and linear accelerators. But because Milo doesn't understand what our basic physics that we established 100 years ago, actually, in particle physics, he's not picking up on this stuff and wants to continue making videos saying that this is all nonsense and pseudo-archaeology. Who's the pseudo-archaeologist now? If you can't understand what you're actually looking at and then you go perpetuate ideas of our ancestors being horribly incapable, who's promoting the pseudo-archaeology now?
Now, these people have no idea what they're talking about. Cap. No way. Bullshit. Absolutely not.
And now, I honestly have to say this is really funny for me because I have been looking at this for years. I mean, honestly, years. And I have looked at this and I'm just like, oh, it's a friggin' cathode ray tube or even just a vacuum tube. But I know I can't prove it. And I swear, every time I've looked at these, though, like, I noticed the monkey at the end. And it looks like a monkey or it could be a frog. I can't tell. It looks like a monkey with a frog head. I don't know, but the guy is always holding a knife, and I was like, why are they firing a beam at a monkey with a knife, or a frog with a knife, or whatever you want to call this thing, and I'm sure I'm butchering it, and I probably need to just look it up, but it literally just hit me, like, it's a beam splitter, he's holding a knife where the beam is focusing at, it's a freaking beam splitter, like, this is literally first day optics technology, like, it's a beam splitter, it's a knife. What would you cut a beam with? A knife. Like, it's like on the nose. It's stupid. Like, what the?
Now, these people have no idea what they're talking about. A pseudo-archaeologist getting their conspiracy theory broadcast is very similar to a white supremacist getting their conspiracy theory broadcast on Tucker Carlson. It's pretty much the highest that you can possibly go. It's the point where your conspiracy theory has hit critical mass and it starts to actually influence the public opinion. It's quite terrifying, actually. The white supremacy is actually masked a tiny bit, where on Tucker Carlson, all you have to say is critical race theory in order to get his tiny little nutsack in a twist. And because of the actions of a handful of dipshits, this conspiracy theory has now been gifted from the top to the bottom into the hands of the tinfoil hat-wearing conspiracy theorists of TikTok and YouTube.
Talk about pseudo-archaeology and pseudoscience a lot, because God knows these videos are a dime a dozen. The pseudoscience pipeline that the algorithm of these apps literally encourages.
Cap. No way. Bullshit. Absolutely not. Honestly, I don't want to silence because it's fucking job security. The nice thing about what I do for a living is that as long as there is stupid people, I can pay my fucking mortgage.
Butterfly effect be crazy. Anyway,
come on. That's lame, dude. I'll give them a prompt Discovery Channel or bust, or National Geographic. If you work for National Geographic, hit me up. Please give me a job. A contract, yeah, manifesting a TV contract on Ancient Aliens is states it like it's facts. Okay, you smug son of a bitch, because Google told them. Whoa, Milo, but you're coming down on him, you're trying to silence him. It's wrong, like a bunch of fucking nerds. Maybe you should have Googled it, and then you wouldn't have had to make a video where you just puts on this persona of being like the smug, cold, hard fact kind of guy. Frankly, I think this part that he's putting forward online is kind of a douche. So it's like, we're really gonna trigger some people today, but you kind of get the character that we're working with here. No, I'm not trying to silence Milo, I'm literally just trying to do his own
physics
research for him. And so because he's gaining his
physics
input from Ancient Apocalypse, then Graham Hancock on Joe Rogan, two people who do a terrible job of representing
wave mechanics,
he thinks he knows what
physics
stands for, which is absolute bullshit. And I want to make clear that the difference between studying
harmonics and resonances of a guitar string and any other vibrating object
whole life and what these people are doing is that Milo speaking like they are an authority figure, like they know better than us. Now, I actually do have some pretty immense respect for Milo, but fully disagree with the things that he's saying. The reason we haven't built any pyramids is we have no purpose for them anymore. I do appreciate the fact that he can actually try and postulate his theories and, actually try and back them up with evidence. I don't think his evidence is very good, but at least he's engaging in the scientific method, But you kind of miss out on all the nuance, and instead all you get is like a frat bro, gatekeeper of archaeology. You can be as interested in archaeology as you want, but don't fucking talk about
physics.
You kind of just end up looking like a goober. And now we put it all together. Here's Milo, both smug and wrong.